Welcome to the AP Podcast.
Y'all ready for this?
Well, I guess let's just get into it, huh?
Yeah, just tell me when you're recording and we'll roll with it.
Perfect. We're going to start recording right now. So, welcome everybody to the AP Podcast. Today I have special guest Keto Savage, aka Robert Sikes. I met Robert, I don't know, about a couple months ago at the GBO bodybuilding show. He actually took overall champ for the bodybuilding, right?
Yeah, it was the classic bodybuilding. First time I'd ever competed in that division.
Really, yeah. You went to the GBO. You won that one, and then you have one right after, right? The next weekend.
Mm-hmm. That following Saturday, it was the natural show in Seattle.
In Seattle, nice. How did that go?
I got second on that one.
Oh, that's really. And you said that was a natural show too, right?
Yeah. It was the debut NBF Federation. The official name for it, I think, was like the Puget Sound Natural Pro-Am or something like that. It's a pretty long name.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, dude. Yeah, because when I saw you at the show, I mean, your level of conditioning shined way bright. I mean, like way over everybody else, and those people might have been enhanced, you know. And so that's what the cool part was, that seeing how diced. I mean, you had striations to your quads, and it was really kind of cool to see. But
I was really pleased with it for sure, how it turned out. I'd never achieved that level of conditioning in the past, so it was cool for sure.
well, yeah. So I guess what I want to talk to you about is to give my viewers a little bit of background on the ketogenic diet, because that's what you've switched to, and that's how you prepped this season, and you looked amazing. I think there's a lot of probably misconceptions in the bodybuilding industry, just fitness industry as a whole, about the ketogenic diet. I usually preach pretty much, involve all macronutrients in your diet, but in certain scenarios for performance, or you're trying to manipulate a certain way, you can do certain things. So if you want to talk a little bit about, what got you started, tell us just a little bit about the ketogenic diet.
Yeah, for sure. So basically, I've been in a ketogenic state for just over 2 years now. I started the ketogenic diets after my last competition in 2014. Actually, I went from that to I did like a flexible dieting approach for that competition. And then my post-show protocol was kind of following something similar to the carbohydrate backloading, which basically is, low to no carbs first part of the day, and then right before you go to sleep, you have like a really high glycemic index, carbohydrates like sugary foods and whatnot.
Yeah.
And then I started to just experiment with cutting those out completely, and then I noticed that I was responding really well to just the no carbs, and then I kind of started to learn more about the ketogenic approach, and then from there, just fell in love with it because I felt and performed so much better. So basically, that's when I started the ketogenic diet, and then my entire off season was, with keto, and then I started prepping for these last two competitions, December 1st, 2015 or 2016, and then it was about a 4.5 month prep. So followed keto throughout that whole process, and then I didn't introduce carbs whatsoever. Did the ketogenic, diet for the peak week, and then here I am now about, I think it's, 38 days since the last competition this year, and I've been doing keto for my post show.
Yeah, can you explain what the ketogenic diet is for somebody who doesn't know anything about it?
Yeah, for sure. So basically, the ketogenic diet is a high fat, moderate protein, and low to no carbohydrate diet. Initially, it was used in the 20s for to treat epileptic children, and that kind of ketogenic was much more of a strict approach in which it was 90% of your macronutrients came from fat and the remaining from protein and trace carbs. From a bodybuilder's standpoint, you generally have a little bit higher protein, so it's kind of more of a modified keto. So But yeah, still really high fat. I mean, right now I'm taking in 350 grams of fat a day, which is kind of unheard of
Yeah, that is
to
unheard
most
of.
people.
How is like how do your triglycerides and your cholesterol and everything managed with that?
I actually, I did like right after this last competition, I wanted to do a 21-day challenge, which was basically at 4,000 calories
Oh wow.
following a ketogenic protocol. So I don't know. We kind of have two different audiences here, so I'm going to give a little bit of background on that, so to kind of catch them up to
Yeah.
speed.
Yeah.
Um, there's basically another ketogenic competitor. His name's Jason Whitrock. He did a 21-day, 4,000 calorie challenge. You documented every day on YouTube to kind of see how his body would respond to it, in a ketogenic state. So I wanted to implement that same challenge for my post show to see how it would respond, to kind of mimic, because you always hear about competitors. They'll have like the negative effects right following the show. They'll have like the rebound, they'll gain a whole lot of weight, they'll have like the depression, everything. So I kind of wanted to just go all out with it and try to basically more than double my calories, immediately post show. Because at the end there, I was only intaking 1,650 calories, so I went straight from that to 4,000.
Wow. Yeah.
And and it was great because like I was hungry. Everybody's hungry after a show.
Yeah.
So I basically I've been doing 4,000 calories since. So it's been about 38 days now. And I wanted to document everything from a medical standpoint, be as scientific with it as possible. So I took my blood level, lipid panel test about 2 weeks into my contest prep, and then I got my lipid panel test again after that 21-day challenge of 350 plus grams of fat a day. And all of my biomarkers have improved significantly. My cholesterol has dropped, my HDL's gone up, LDL's gone down, my triglycerides, which were already low at 64 on January 20th, they went down to 36. So like right now, my last test was at May 5th. So intaking that much fat, my triglycerides are now at 36, which is, you ideally want them to be less than 130, and mine
Yeah.
are at
No, that's
36,
crazy.
so.
And to think how they teach us in society like at the university that saturated fat especially and is terrible for you, and you want to limit your fat to most protocols are somewhere around I think the recommended is 15 to 35% of your daily intake is from fat, and of that it's only like less than 10% or 5% is like saturated fat. But how much of your total intake of fat is saturated fat?
North of 80% for sure.
Wow.
It is crazy, man. Like all the medical books. I mean, I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on the internet. A little disclaimer here, but I mean, there's so much science that's coming out now that basically just takes everything that you've heard and turns it on its head. But I mean, all the medical books and whatnot, they're all kind of dated, and all this new research is really illustrating how the fats are not bad. Like in the 90s, it was all about fat-free, and all this artificial stuff to get to that fat-free state, whereas now it's going back to the natural, organic side of things, and, that involves, the natural, healthy fats.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. And I think there's just so much different variations of them giving out information just because of the control over the market and stuff like that for cost of things and just, it's not just the maybe researchers, it's more of the whole industry as a whole.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But no, that's awesome. That I can't believe that more than 80% of your calories is from saturated fat. What kind of food do you usually eat? I mean, like I hear of butters and nuts and beefs and what can you give us like a little intro to a ketogenic diet, I guess, for some of the foods you would eat?
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of the healthy oils, coconut oil is great. The butters, the cheeses. Some people respond better than others to like dairy and like nuts, because most nuts do have some carbohydrates, so you have to kind of minimize that. Macadamia nuts are really good because they don't have that much. So I'll intake a lot of oils. like I said, butter and the dairy, heavy cream. I do take in a lot of meat. I kind of stay away from the leaner cuts. Like I don't really eat that much chicken or lean pork. I eat some, fatty pork like bacon and whatnot. 80-20 ground beef. But honestly, I don't eat a whole lot of meat, to be honest, which is kind of surprising because most people that know the basics of keto just assume that you eat nothing but meat all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's like there's a lot of ways to get in 350 grams of fat.
Yeah.
I'm
So,
actually making an ice cream right now that's in the freezer
oh,
that's made mostly from coconut cream, and that's 130 grams of fat right there in total. And that's all just derived from coconut cream.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. So, but yours is not like a Dave Palumbo kind of diet. It's not like a high fat, high protein.
No, Dave Palumbo, that name's pretty big in the keto community.
Yeah, I know.
But
I was gonna say
yeah,
I was gonna bring it up just so because people usually hear it, but I feel like I wanted you to explain maybe a little bit of how having too much protein maybe halts you to getting into ketosis, or maybe your thoughts on it.
yeah, absolutely. And it's really common with the bodybuilders that have, I don't know. I think I think bodybuilders try to get the best of both worlds, and because they're always preached to have really high protein to build that muscle, and then you have keto, which is really high fat, so they kind of naturally steer towards having high fat and high protein. But if you have too much protein in your diet, your body is basically going to convert that protein into glucose through a really inefficient process called gluconeogenesis. So basically, your body's going to perform as if it's still intaking carbohydrates, so it's not even going to be switching over to use those ketones as the primary fuel source. So, yeah, definitely not necessary to have as much protein as you would if you were following the typical carbohydrate-based diet. Um, Generally speaking, I think any more than about 20-25% of your macronutrients, daily macros coming from protein, any more than that's going to kind of lend itself to triggering that gluconeogenesis process, and you want to avoid that if possible.
Yeah, do you think that that's maybe one of the reasons why people don't stay on the ketogenic diet is because maybe they have their protein too high and then they're not getting into ketosis and they're really low carb, so they just have not a lot of energy because their body's still trying to use glucose, but the inefficient process of actually converting the protein into glucose, maybe that makes them feel like shit, so they just don't stick with the diet.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if your macros are perfectly balanced, it takes a little bit of time for your body to get adapted. I mean, if you think about it, most people haven't been in a state of ketosis since they were at birth, because like when you're born, you're actually like the mother's breast milk is actually ketogenic. So people are in a state of ketosis, when they're newborns, and then they start introducing carbs into your life, and then most people don't go back to a ketogenic state until they try to implement this diet. So they've had a lifetime of using carbs, and even if your numbers are perfect, it takes a little while for your body to catch up with what you're, giving it, and get adapted to that as the fuel source. So the main thing is just to, test to make sure you've got everything balanced as best you can, but you have to be patient and give it some time. You can't, try the ketogenic diet for 3 days and say it's not for you and give up on it.
Yeah, yeah, no, that makes sense. So how do you go about measuring you're getting into ketosis? I've heard of some, you have some piss sticks, or you have some blood lipid, or some blood monitor, blood ketone monitor. Or can you explain a little bit about what you have to do? Maybe how many times a day or how many times a week you have to check?
Honestly, once you kind of know what it is you're looking for, you can know by feel whether you're in a state of ketosis or not. But as far as the testing specifically is concerned, there's three primary testing methods. You have the urinalysis test, which basically measures the ketones present in your urine, which is acetoacetate. However, those strips are highly inaccurate, and so much so that each individual brand of ketone urine strip can yield different results.
Wow.
So I don't ever really recommend those. And the thing, like the longer you've been in ketosis, the more efficient your body becomes at not excreting acetoacetate. So I don't even measure as being in ketosis on those anymore. So I basically don't even use them. Then you have the breathalyzer test, which measures the breath ketones, which is acetate, and that's kind of hit and miss. It's more accurate than the urine strips, but not near as much so as the blood test, which is what I recommend and use. And I use a Precision Extra blood ketone monitoring system. It looks and pretty much performs the same way as like the you see the diabetics that have the little blood strips where they prick their finger. Basically the same thing, except it measures ketones. It's a different kind of strip.
Gotcha.
And that's really accurate. You know exactly what levels you're at then. And you're in ketosis, technically, if you're at 0.5 millimolars or greater. The sweet spot being between 1 and 3.
Okay, wow. So I guess one thing is people will say the mental clarity of being in ketosis. I've never been into ketosis. I'm pretty traditional kind of, diet. But I noticed when we're talking at the show, you have prepped using carbs before, and then now you have prepped using fat. And so kind of give us a rundown of how you felt decreasing calories, but now you're in ketosis. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
From like a mental clarity and your energy, and tell us a little bit about maybe like training, like your strength and stuff like that.
For sure. Well, so like mental clarity, honestly, that's the biggest benefit that I get from the diet, more so than anything else. Like even if I wasn't building muscle with the diet, which I am, I would still probably stay in a ketogenic state just for the mental benefits, which is hard to say as a bodybuilder because our priority is building muscle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like the movie Limitless, man. It's a light switch. I feel and perform so much better mentally, and as a business owner, and as just my day to day, that's key for me. And there's so many other nuances to that. Like I can perform better on less sleep. Like I'm just sharper. I don't have to crash just throughout the day from the sugar highs. But from like a prep standpoint, like in the past when I would do a prep and I start, lowering and decreasing my carbohydrates and my proteins and my fats and just everything, basically, I would just start, especially once you hit that about month out mark, you're like a zombie.
You're like a totally different person, huh?
Oh yeah, and like the first show I ever did, I was in college at the time, so I mean, I would literally be in class and just like not hearing or understanding anything the professor was saying. I would just be waiting for my next meal, watching the clock on the wall. I mean, it's crazy. Like I don't know. Whereas with this prep in a ketogenic state, I mean, I definitely was hungry that month out, but you actually boost your ketone levels as you decrease your calories because ketogenic state is kind of like the body's natural, tactic and strategy for surviving when you're in a fasted state.
I was going to say fasting probably helps promote it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like my ketone levels would increase the more I decrease my food. So counterintuitively, and unlike all the other competitors, as they were getting more zombie, like I was getting sharper and sharper, as we got closer to show day because my ketones were higher and higher. So that was definitely a plus on my side.
Well, I know that you're gonna have different levels of like glucagon and insulin and stuff than a traditional diet. Do you think that you have built just as much muscle using hormone, your testosterone levels, and you have, you're more using insulin when you're more carb dominant? Do you think that you can gain just the same amount of muscle using a ketogenic diet than a traditional diet?
I don't know. It's really hard to tell. I actually competed at the same stage weight both this year and that I did 2 years ago in 2014. So looking strictly at a body weight perspective, I didn't come in any heavier, but that's pretty typical as a natural bodybuilder. But if you look at the pictures, you can definitely see where I've added, a lot more lean quality muscle, and I came in leaner. So I've definitely put on muscle in the 2 years that I've been ketogenic. Whether or not I would have had more muscle had I, been consuming carbs during that time, it's hard to say. Um, I will say this though: when you're eating more carbohydrates, it's much easier for you to store more body fat.
Yes.
But insulin, you're able to build muscle. Insulin's like the ultimate growth hormone, basically.
Yeah.
You're building muscle, you're building fat, and you're building everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so had I had a more carbohydrate-based diet during that time, it's probable that I would have gained more muscle, but I also would have gained more fat, and then therefore would have
Had
lost
had to
had
go
to
into
lose
caloric
that fat, and
deficit
then probably
and
would have had to lose
yeah.
some muscle.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Whereas with keto, I didn't. So at the end of the day, when I'm on stage, I don't necessarily think that I would have been any more muscular had I been eating carbs during that time than keto.
Well, so you said you're still eating 4,000 calories still, and you're like, what, 38 days you said post-show?
Yeah, the 21-day challenge went so great at 4,000 calories. I figured, well, what the hell? I'll just
You
just
keep it
keep going
going,
with it.
yeah. Well, tell us a little bit about like the results from bumping up to 4,000 calories, because if I remember from seeing your posts, you actually got leaner.
Yeah, I did. Initially, I took a impedance test like the week of the show, and then I took one. I basically started the challenge that same week, so I didn't take that one before the challenge. I took one like a week into the challenge, and then I took one at the end of the challenge. And according to that, and granted, those aren't near as accurate as like a bod pod, but I couldn't get one of those scheduled in time. So I've got the numbers written on the wall here. So my body fat, let me see here, went from 4.3% at the start of the challenge to I think 3.3 a week in. And then I don't know if that was an accurate loss in body fat. I think that might have just been because I started eating more. So I had a heavier body weight to take the test with, but I hadn't obviously gained any body fat in less than a week's time. So I think that was just the variance there. And then at the conclusion of the 21-day challenge, I was at 5.5%. So I experienced about a 1.2% increase in body fat. But you got to realize, I was down to 3-something, at my lowest. So I didn't
believe
really
it too. You were shredded as hell.
Yeah, I didn't expect to get. I expected to gain some body fat after more than doubling my calories.
Yeah. No, and the thing is, because most people will compete, they get down, and then you see people posting, oh, I got to 4% and stuff like that. I'm like, no, true 4% is like, I guess one person referencing would be, I don't know if you know who John Meadows is, but when he got his pro card, I think he got his pro card, he got down and he wanted to see if he could get to 4%. And he said that it was the toughest thing he's ever done, and the level of conditioning was a lot different than what people think 4% is. And it reminded me when I saw you, your glutes, your quads, they were striated so much that it was. I believe it. I believe that you were that low.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. Like weird things start happening to your body when you get below 5. Like my hair stops growing. Like just weird things that people don't ever think about.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, you gotta be pretty low when you're having shredded glutes,
Yeah, exactly. But well, how was the rebound in terms of, obviously I bet you your strength went up, but what was it like during the prep using keto? I know that people preach now the new research of using saturated fat, and it helps your cholesterol, like your HDLs, like you're talking about, and it helps with testosterone. Well, tell us a little bit about, maybe, did it help? Did you maintain strength more being in ketosis on the cut?
Yes, absolutely. When you think about it, testosterone. The precursor to testosterone is cholesterol, which is a fat source. So my cholesterol is much higher now in the ketogenic diet because so much of my intake is derived from fats. So my hormones and my testosterone is in a much more elevated state throughout this whole prep. I was actually PRing on lifts, I think 3 months into prep.
Wow.
yeah, and that whole time, I'm decreasing my calories. And a lot of that, I mean, you can't just say, I mean, a lot of that's, your mental aspect, like, you're in the zone when you're prepping for a show, so, like, you go to the gym with the intention of killing it. So, I mean, not all that's just the diet alone, all that's just the mental aspect. But, yeah, I was PRing on lifts 3 months in. I didn't really start to experience any strength loss until about 4 weeks out from the show. And at that point, I had lost, over 20 pounds. So
Yeah.
there's some lifts that you just need to have more leverage, a little bit more lead in your ass
Yeah.
to get the weight up. And
Yeah, no.
20 pounds lighter, it makes it a little harder to get those numbers.
Yeah, I would imagine. Is there any like certain supplementation that you use for the ketogenic diet?
My supplementation has decreased since doing keto. You don't really need, I mean, with keto, you don't really need a whey protein. I mean, your proteins are more moderate than high. You don't want a fast-acting protein, by itself. So I don't ever buy whey protein anymore. The only supplements I really use are a branched chain amino acid and then creatine, and then just daily multivitamins and minerals and whatnot. The main thing with keto is electrolytes. So it's really key to stay on top of your sodium. So I mean, I would recommend just a good quality pink Himalayan sea salt over any other supplement.
Yeah. I actually just did a post last night about sodium. I bet you, since you're in a ketogenic diet, that your muscle fullness decreases from obviously not having glycogen uptake. But does sodium is probably your best friend, because the more sodium you have, the more water you can retain. And yeah, so.
Yeah, and I mean when you become keto adapted, since you're not holding on to that glycogen, your kidneys are flushing out all your electrolytes. You're using the bathroom a lot more initially, and you're depleting yourself of all that sodium. So you have to kind of replenish it by intaking more, and then you have to balance that out with your potassium and magnesium levels. So yeah, it's just to kind of follow suit with how everybody said saturated fats are bad.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Says salt's bad. You got to actually add salt.
Yeah, I was gonna say sodium's terrible. Do you have any measurements of how much sodium you intake, or do you just kind of just salt away?
No, I try to measure. I don't measure everything, especially in the off season. But I definitely try to maintain a certain degree of understanding of what I'm intaking. So like my body performs really well at about 4,000 milligrams of sodium a day. Anywhere from 4,000 to 7,000 is a pretty typical day for me on the salt.
Isn't it like 1,000 is like the recommended amount, like under 1,000 or something like that?
Yeah, I think 1,500 is what's recommended.
Yeah.
So I'm a little higher than that for sure. But I mean, pink salt, I don't recommend like the iodized salt. There's not really much benefit in that. But like good quality pink Himalayan sea salt, I mean, there's like 84 minerals in that or something like that. So it's got a host of advantages,
Yeah. No, that makes total sense. Sweet. Well, I guess I wanted to ask you, and I'll bring it up to the viewers, is if you guys have been listening and you are interested in the ketogenic diet, Robert actually has a book. And you tell us a little bit about what the book entails, Robert?
Yeah, for sure. So I wrote the book before I started the prep, after being in ketosis, for the off season for almost 2 years. And I just seen and experienced such, overwhelming benefits from the diet that I wanted to share that. So the diet, basically, it's geared towards, performance and athletes, but it's pretty applicable to anybody interested in the diet. But I kind of go into the details about, how to get into ketosis, what are some of the pitfalls, what you need to watch out for, what can you avoid to kind of minimize the keto flu effects of that transition period from glucose to ketones.
You feel like, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what's referred to as the keto flu. Basically, all that is your body switching over and adapting to a different fuel source.
Yeah. How long do you think it usually takes?
It really depends on the individual. I mean, the diet it varies so much from individual to individual. But I tell all my clients, I can get you into ketosis in a month. It doesn't take that long by any means, especially if you kind of do everything perfectly. But I don't know. You can get, for someone that hasn't been adapted since childbirth, I would give them 2 to 3 weeks.
Huh.
So,
Wow. So not too bad. You have to suffer for a couple weeks, but the benefits might outweigh the all the bad that's, feeling like crap.
yeah, and honestly, I mean, if you kind of take the steps to safeguard yourself from those pitfalls, like the electrolytes, making sure they're balanced, increasing your sodium, staying hydrated. I mean, that's going to greatly minimize the chance of feeling poorly for those few weeks.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that makes sense. Well, yeah. Where can I'll actually link it up, but where do you have your book listed at? So if people want to check it out, they can get it.
Well, I've got links on all my social channels. You can get a hard or a physical book from Amazon. Just type in the Keto Adapted Performance Manual, or you can get the ebook from my website, which is ketosavage.com.
Well, yeah, I'll link that up because I'd actually be interested too. I mean, I've been starting to study a little bit about the ketogenic diet. I have a couple of clients that I've been like kind of working with that wanted to try it, and so been some testing of just trying to get the macros correct for their body, and then the meal timing if it has any influence. Also, like I was asking about the supplementation, and then just like if there's any other hidden secrets to the ketogenic diet.
I mean, a lot of it's like trial and error with, like I said, each individual. I've got a macro calculator on my website that kind of gives you a good baseline. But then once you have that baseline, you really just like test and see, because some people, they'll be able to tolerate a lot more carbs. They'll be able to tolerate a lot more protein than others without it kicking them out of ketosis. Whereas other people, they might need to stay much lower on those ratios. So once you have that baseline, it's basically just trial and error test and see what works best for them, and then play with it, get creative. But a lot of people complain. Like, well, I think one of the reasons people fail with a diet is because they, like as you said earlier, they give up because they start feeling poorly for those few weeks. But they don't think there's any food options. You remove the carbs and they just they get depressed because there's no food options. But if you there's so many keto food options. Like there's literally, I mean, you can go to Pinterest and spend hours and they're looking at keto desserts, and there's I had a cheesecake the other day that was keto and it was better than the carb version.
Really?
Yeah, you just gotta give people options.
Yeah, I see that there's a good amount of stuff you can use with avocado and butters and creams and stuff like that.
Yeah, creams, and I mean, the flavor from food comes from the fats. I mean, all these sweets that are high in sugar, those are all sweet and they taste good, but I don't know, it's not really a fulfilling flavor. I think the fats is where the really savory goodness comes from, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I'm sure that other people would probably agree after having some bacon and eggs and loading up on some grease.
It is I literally had bacon and eggs every single day of my prep, and not because I had to, but because I wanted to.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, and people will see what you look like too in your prep, and they'll be like, "Wow, you had bacon and eggs every single day."
Bacon and eggs and pizza. I had keto pizza every single day too. I made a pizza every day.
Really? How'd you make that?
The crust, I like a thin crust personally.
Mm-hmm.
So the keto crust is made with just 3 ingredients. We have almond flour, cream cheese, and I use a shredded cheddar pepper jack, or not pepper jack, but Kobe Jack cheese blend that I got from Costco. You basically just mix all that up, heat it up, and then spread it out like a dough and bake it, and that's the crust.
Huh. Yeah, well,
so good, man.
I mean, yeah, I actually want to try it. I'm actually gonna probably look that up because I haven't messed around with trying to get into ketosis, but I feel like maybe over the summertime would be a good idea while I have a little less going on, and plus it'd probably be easier to, or it'd be better dieting down. Do you lose a lot more body fat? Do you notice faster in the ketogenic diet?
Yeah, you lose a lot of weight right off the bat. Like if you're not in ketosis and you switch over, you're gonna lose a lot of water weight right off the bat because you don't have that glycogen. So that's kind of like motivating in itself.
Yeah.
And then you start really cutting through the body fat because basically your body is using fat as the fuel source. So whatever you're intaking, it's using as fuel, and then whatever you have stored, it's using as fuel. Whereas, if you're using carbs as fuel, you kind of have to make sure you're not intaking too much, which is true with keto too. But I think you can kind of get away with intaking a little bit more, as I experienced on the 4,000 calorie challenge, with it not really inhibiting your fat loss to the extent that it would if you were eating carbs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think you can cut body fat faster with
Gotcha.
keto.
So it sounds like kind of the pros would be like you said, mental clarity. I think it hasn't even helped out with some cancers and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's like a lot of the really exciting research that I'm excited to see from a medical standpoint. I mean, there's been so much that's coming out lately about how, cancer, and that, like I said, I don't know all the details, but basically cancer is fueled off of, sugar basically as well.
Glucose, yeah.
And then when you take that out, it basically starves those cancer cells in a sense.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of pros to doing it. It's probably the biggest question is to be able to maintain it just because of culture and self-control and actually, dedication. Do you think that the ketogenic diet is for everybody, or do you think it's only for a select few people?
I mean, I don't think any one diet is for everybody. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm definitely pro keto. I've tried all the different diets, and I'm excited to stay on keto for the long haul.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any reason why I would want to get off of it. But I mean, I don't want to say that it's the only way to go and everybody else is wrong, because that would be very short-sighted and small-minded of me.
Yeah.
But I honestly haven't had any negative effects from it whatsoever. There are people that aren't going to adapt as quickly. It is harder for women to adapt than it is for men, I think, but they can adapt. It just takes a little bit longer to kind of tweak a few more things. But as far as like any select group that shouldn't do it, I don't know. That's something that, another disclaimer, you need to consult with your doctor and figure out. Because, I mean, people have certain conditions that's going to allow them to, not metabolize that fat as efficiently as others. And then I could see that being, hindering their results and it not being the optimal diet for them.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes total sense. So it's pretty much like if you try it out and you like it, then stick with it. But you're not saying that it's like the die-all of dieting. So pretty much more of it is for people trying to be healthy is if they want to try something new and see the benefits, like you said, the mental clarity and stuff, then try it out. But if you don't like it, then just maintaining good macros, good calories. I mean, just, the normals, be active is still going to be just as beneficial, I guess, from a weight loss standpoint, meaning calories in versus calories out. Like, do you think that it is the same using a traditional diet versus keto diet, or do you think that actually keto diet you can lose more body fat?
I think with keto diet, generally speaking, all other things equal, the ketogenic diet, you can lose more body fat because your body is using that stored fat as the fuel source, and it's basically using that more efficiently than if you were using carbs as the fuel source. I'm excited to follow the ketogenic protocol for the lifetime because of all the medical benefits more so than anything. Because I mean, the cancer research is coming out, and then just like there's so many other things that you don't really think of to speak of, especially since you and I are performance athletes, we just want the performance side of things. Mm-hmm. But I mean, the ketogenic diets drastically decrease my inflammation. I mean, there's just so many perks from a medical standpoint that I think will lend itself to long-term health and longevity that I'm excited to implement, using the keto diet, that I think it actually has, benefits over traditional diets.
Huh. Well, hey, thank you so much for giving us a little rundown of the ketogenic diet. Robert, it was great having you on the podcast. I learned a lot, so I'm really glad to have you on. I'd love to link up with you again. Yeah, I really enjoyed this. So if any of the viewers, if any of you have questions, I'm going to put Robert's social media in the links or in the bio, and feel free to message him. Feel free to message me if you have any questions. Until next time, I will see you guys later.
I appreciate it, Austin.
Yeah.
Always a pleasure, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it.